Welcome to Sykes, the Bottom Line Pharmacy Podcast, your regular dose of pharmacy CPA advice to fuel your bottom line, featuring pharmacists, key vendors, and other innovators. Okay, so welcome to this episode of the Sykes Bottom Line Pharmacy Podcast. Today we have a special guest, Lindsey Daniel. She's with EnlivenHealth, and she's been their senior manager there of reconciliation. So we look forward to doing a deep dive, well, not a deep dive, but going over some of the basics of the reconciliation process. So tell me, where are you from? Where are you at? A little bit about yourself. Let the audience know who they're going to be listening to today.
Yeah, hi y'all. Thanks for having me on today. It's great to be here. Like Kendall said, my name is Lindsey Daniel. I'm the Senior Manager of Reconciliation at EnlivenHealth, which is formerly FDS Amplicare. I've been here roughly 9 years now. I started out doing performing the reconciliation. So what my team does today for our pharmacies, I have a passion about recon, helping our customers manage their financial business, and just getting to know our solutions and what we have to offer. And just a little bit about EnlivenHealth. EnlivenHealth builds advanced software solutions that help community pharmacies improve the health of their patients and their business. So EnlivenHealth acquired FDS Amplicare and Market Touch Media in 2021. And now EnlivenHealth offers the industry's most comprehensive software suite, including solutions for patient engagement, financial management, clinical services, business intelligence, and we currently service 50,000 pharmacies nationwide. So my focus is in the reconciliation and medical billing space. And again, I just have a passion for helping our pharmacies manage their financial portfolio.
Yeah, you guys cover a lot of different solutions for pharmacies, and for sure.
Definitely.
But the one we want to focus on today, obviously, is the financial solutions, the reconciliation, the medical reconciliation, which is kind of taken off nowadays. So, Lindsey, we have a good relationship with you guys. We work with a lot of mutual pharmacy clients, and we often hear pharmacies out there that either don't have any reconciliation in place at all, they're doing it by hand, or they don't even keep up with the reconciliation systems they have in place. Maybe it is the Enliven system. They're just not managing it or doing what they need to be doing on that end. Can you talk to maybe a little bit about, why pharmacies, in your opinion, need to have this system in place and the benefits that it can provide to pharmacies?
Yeah, definitely. I think to answer that, we kind of have to start with what is reconciliation and what is that service and what does it offer? So reconciliation, in simplest terms, is just making sure that you're getting paid what you're billing out. So, you have patients coming in, you're dispensing that medication's out the door, right? And now you have to wait for those PBMs to pay you, and that could be 60 to 90 days down the line. So are you sure that you're getting that money? If you're not tracking it, do you know this $100 script, you're getting that $100 back, or are you just giving away your product for free, basically? So that's where reconciliation comes into play. I like to think of reconciliation as an insurance policy, just to know that you're getting paid, right? You check your bank account every other week and make sure you have your paycheck,
right?
So you can pay your bills, that sort of thing. So recon is that insurance policy to make sure that you do have those funds available to pay your bills, to pay your staff, to be more involved in your communities, to serve your patients. So that's essentially, what recon is and why I think it's important. And again, it's that insurance policy. So while I think a lot of pharmacies may assume that it's about recouping funds and finding that lost money, that doesn't always happen. It certainly does happen, right? I've had pharmacies where they have EFT set up and there was a banking error to where $10,000 just wasn't deposited because the bank stopped all their funds. So you hear a lot of, well, I have EFT set up, I'm not worried about it, I'm getting my money. Well, are you? Are you sure? If you're not reconciling, how do you know? Same thing with checks getting lost in the mail or claims that just go unpaid because they were missed for whatever reason. So that's where recon comes into play, to where if it does happen, you are tracking it and you're able to know much more quickly that you're missing these funds, or that something's happening with your financial business.
And we have a term that we actually refer to with that method around here. We have, like I said, we've met a lot of clients who come to us and they haven't been doing anything at all. And we like to call that the fill and pray method. So that is where you just fill the script and you just hope that you're going to get paid, which is
exactly
just terrible in my opinion. I mean, we cannot do that. You've got to make sure, because some things are just, I had a client a few weeks ago that just started to see that she was having some, her cash flow just seemed low all of a sudden. And she's like, there's no real reason for that. And she had, checked out some other things to make sure, they weren't the causes, and they weren't. And so she's like, I just don't understand. And so when she really started to look at the reports that you guys have, she was able to start to see that she had not been, just one of her, payers had stopped. She stopped getting money. And there was a reason behind that once she dug into it. But if she didn't have those reports, if she didn't know, how would she ever track that down and know?
That happens all the time.
Right.
I mean, you hear that kind of stuff all the time. You really do. But another saying, Bonnie, we have,
I know what this
other
is.
than the fill and pray, is the largest unreconciled bank account in your pharmacy. And, we reconcile our pharmacy bank accounts every single day. We're going in there, reconciling, and keeping it up to date. So not having your finger on the pulse of what's going on with what you're adjudicating, receiving, and so forth is not good. I mean, you got to have that system in place. You got to know where your receivables are if you're getting paid. Mm-hmm. And I know you've heard a lot of horror stories, Lindsey, on, issues with reconciliation and not being paid and so on and so forth. I mean, we've heard the same thing. So it's very important to make sure you're keeping tabs on that. So what are some, so that's kind of what reconciliation is, why it's important. And also it's just important in general for your financial picture overall when you're running financials and analyzing how your pharmacy's performing, your margins, KPIs, so forth. What are some of the best practices or maybe even service levels that you guys have with the Econcile platform? And maybe some best practices with that, because I know we have a lot of pharmacies that use the system, but maybe they don't know the best practices or how to maximize the system in general.
Yeah, definitely. So we have two service levels that we offer. One is a self-service model. So as opposed to, maybe manually tracking things on a spreadsheet, we offer you our solution, our technology, to where most everything's going to be automated for you, but you still need to log in and verify your deposits to make sure you have those funds in your bank, work what we call payment exceptions. And those are claims that didn't pay as you were expecting. So I know sometimes, we're just looking for what didn't get paid, but what didn't get paid in full. So that's, things to manage there. In situations where maybe we're not getting the electronic files for your deposits, manually entering those paper EOBs. That way you're on top of what's coming in and your aged receivables is staying up to date. So that's kind of general, our self-service platform. I recommend logging in probably multiple times a week for that. Daily is honestly the best. So you're on top of it, and it's less time that you're having to spend at the end of the week or the end of the month to get it cleaned up. And it is going to be time, for our pharmacists or for our pharmacy owners to go in and do that. And we also offer what we call a full service model. So our Econcile complete solution. And that's where you essentially put 95% of that work into my team's hands. So we have a team of analysts that manage your aged receivables as things are older than 60 days. Where's that money? If you have paper remits that need to be entered, my team does that for you. And then payment exceptions, if there are things that maybe the payer is not paying or underpaying, things that are missing, we do all that legwork with the payers on, the pharmacy's behalf, so they can focus again on their patients. They don't have to spend this time reconciling because we're doing it behind the scenes. And I think just best practices for that, again, you still need to verify deposits. We don't have access to your bank account. We don't want access to your bank account. So just logging in, once a week, spend 15 minutes going in and checking those off in our system. That's the critical piece, because that's what starts reconciliation, and that's how we can reconcile those claims. The next piece, like I said, you have a team here. There is one lead rep that's in charge of your account. They will be reaching out just with, hey, this is what I see in the account. Are you aware of this kind of thing? So just being engaged with them. If they're asking for information, if they're needing paper EOBs, that sort of thing, just stay engaged, answer them, provide them with the information that you need. So again, at the end of each month, quarter, year, your age receivables is up to date, and we're not, having to go back and try to clean up what's out there.
And I have a question. So those two, the more self-service and then the one that they're kind of putting a little bit more in your team's hands, what are the names of those service levels? Are there specific names if someone, wanted to sign up for them?
Yeah, so the self-service model is our Econcile Auto, and then our full service is Econcile Complete.
Okay. And you said rather than to reconcile it on a spreadsheet, I have to ask, are pharmacists really trying to reconcile
Yes.
all of this?
I see it.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
Oh,
I've
man.
seen it. I've heard those stories, and they get into our solution. They're like, this is so much better. Just having that automated, solution. We're getting your data. We're getting your 835s. The system's doing a lot of that work, a lot of that matching. So if it's paying what it's expected, you don't even have to look at those.
Oh, wow.
Whereas if you're manually doing it, right, you could be filling 7,000 claims a month on average. That's 7,000 claims you're having to look at individually. Whereas, having that technical solution, maybe there's 30 claims a month that you're having to review, or, something much more manageable.
And
So Lindsey, let me ask, what is, because I know you see a lot of this, what would be for a busy pharmacist? So we work with a lot of independent pharmacists who, they are, their time is very limited. And I know this can be somewhat of a tedious process. Even if it's not that much per day, it's kind of like payroll. Sometimes we say, please don't do it. Outsource that. You don't have time for this. Accounting, let us handle it.
Right.
You handle the pharmacy. So in an optimal situation that you see works the best, what would be the best scenario? Do you see pharmacists kind of maybe have a tech that helps them with that's kind of their dedicated duty, like an employee there at the store, or are they just having to find the time to do it on their own? What works the best that you see?
I think the pharmacies that we work with, it's generally, working with the techs.
Okay.
Somebody that they've hired, into their pharmacy, because our owners, our pharmacists, their time is tied up in all of these other things that they're trying to do for their patients. Not to say that they can't do it. It's just, more time spent on them. Even, on the complete model, 30 minutes a week, that's probably 30 minutes that they just don't have, right? They might be doing it at night when they get home, answering their emails, and, those are just things that they don't necessarily have to do. So we do work with a lot of techs, or we work with a lot of accountants that may be in their office, that sort of thing. That's kind of their focus.
Gotcha.
what would be your message? What would be your message? Maybe you can help us all out giving a message to the pharmacists that are listening, to those who say, well, I just enjoy it and I'll get to it when I get to it. I just want to do it myself. We have a lot of pharmacists that become attached to certain duties, mm-hmm. but then they don't get to it, unfortunately. What would be your message for mm-hmm. them?
Yeah, I think, again, just back to the importance of staying on top of your reconciliation. It's more than just, making sure you're getting paid, right? There's a whole financial suite of reports that we offer, tracking your DIR fees. Are you
That's
aware
a big
of
one.
those? Are they increasing month to month? If you're not out there looking at it or doing it, how do you know what's happening? How do you know what funds you can expect to come in so you can pay your bills next month? How are you doing that financial planning on your side if you're not actively looking at it? I know, you might say, when I get the time, well, when are you going to have the time, mm-hmm. right? Your patients are important. Your patients need you. And I feel like that should be your focus. Let us handle your financial needs.
And we love those DR fee reports that come out of the system because, as we know and as we talk about all the time, DR fees are your third largest expense now, behind cost of goods, behind payroll. So having your finger on the pulse of what's going on with DR fees is critical. So those reports are able to give you that information. You get it into your accounting system. Now you can see where your percentages are with DR fees. Are you below? Are you above average? And then you can take action, maybe to some degree, to make adjustments with those DR fees. So those reports are great, for sure.
And what other big reports do you see that are utilized by pharmacists? I know, and if you could speak to a little bit, I know there's some aging reports that we look at a lot internally, but is there any other specific reports, or I get too detailed oriented, but what are pharmacists looking for when they look at reports generally?
Yeah, so I think, in our system, we have just kind of the recommended reports at the top, right? These are the ones at minimum you should be running. So we have our aged receivables month end. That is just a static report that shows you exactly where your AR is month to month, and you can run that at any time and it won't change month to month. And then at the end of the year, especially. So that's important because, again, it's telling you, where your funds are, what's tied up, what's been paid or not paid. So we kind of start with that one. That's, the number one report that we recommend. We also have claims reports that show your sales for the month. So we recommend you look at those so you can see what you have billed out and what you can expect, to receive in the next 30, 60, 90 days. We have our paid reports, so what's been posted in the system, so claims that were paid, if there were variances in those payments, overpayments, underpayments, partial payments, if you have vouchers, things like that, so that posted report. And then the DIR fees. DIR fees are important, but it's also important to note that there are other adjustments being taken out of these checks. So we do have the report that's kind of all encompassing of your transaction fees, your forwarding balances, your DIR fees, everything in one, because while DIR fees are probably the largest, there could be a couple, $1,000 here or there a month being taken out in other areas. So those are all reports that we recommend you look at minimum once a month at the end of each month.
And I gotta say, it's a very user-friendly platform you guys have, because I get in there every now and again and play around with it. So very friendly. I didn't mean to cut you off there, Lindsey, but I want to ask about the verifying deposits, because I've seen pharmacies that will verify once a month versus once or twice a week, which we highly recommend you do. And that can throw off the age receivable reports in terms of timing and things like that. So you'll have a big month of high AR, and then the next month after you verified, it can drop. So it can just kind of skew those numbers if you're getting those numbers into your financial system. So having that reconciliation or the verifying deposits is and getting into a system, a routine where you're doing that consistently is important.
Yeah, if you're doing it twice a week, it should take you 5-10 minutes max each of those days to go in and do that. And we can't reconcile until you verify it. That's what starts the whole process. So you might go the whole month. If you're still looking at your aging, it's going to be inflated for that entire month. So you're going to think that you have more money coming in than you actually do because you probably already received it. So just going and spending those few minutes every week to do that, it'll honestly be easier on our pharmacists to just do it more regularly.
And just so everyone that's listening, really understands from an accounting perspective the way we look at it. And, when we look at financials and we're looking at your balance sheet, and like you said, we do this, we have our hands in it every day as far as a reconcile, cash balance scenario. But we also, at the end of the month, we're going in, line by line on the balance sheet and adjusting to these numbers that we're talking about. And two of those big numbers are inventory, which is why, it's important that we get a perpetual number from a perpetual system. And also the other big number is receivables. And that's why this is so important to us, is because, like you said, even if you're using a platform like yours, if you're not reconciling it like you speak of correctly, and we have inflated numbers or deflated numbers, whatever the case may be, if the number isn't right, and we use that number to do the financial statements to adjust to those, obviously that's going to have an impact on sales and the bottom line and your gross profit. So, because, sometimes we pull those reports and you can look at it and know enough to know that can't be right. That's really high. And if you use that number, then like you said, receivables are inflated, and then our numbers aren't really giving us a true picture of how the pharmacy is operating. So it's not only important, like you mentioned, I just want to point that out, that we use a service like this, but that we also use it correctly, because to get correct numbers, and then that just goes through the whole process, your taxes, your financials, your KPIs. If you want all that information to be correct and you really want to understand how your pharmacy is operating, you've got to do this correctly and make sure you have the correct information.
Right.
And we look at enough of these third-party reports every single day where we can pretty much pick out when there's something not right in these reports, and then we can go to the client and say, hey, maybe you're missing something here. But yeah, it's very important from that accounting side and from knowing those numbers for sure. So, Lindsey, how about the always switch gears. How about the medical billing side? We've got some pharmacies dipping into the medical side, whatever it is with vaccinations or IVs or whatever it comes with the medical side. Kind of talk on that system and kind of what you're seeing there in terms of maybe growth in seeing pharmacies expand into that medical side, or perhaps how is that system different than the normal reconciliation with scripts?
Yeah, I think the medical billing system, especially in the last 2 years, has just taken off, right? Because pharmacists, their licenses are expanding. They're able to do more point of care testing. The COVID vaccines and tests, those types of things have really, tripled. And I don't even know how large it's grown in the last 2 years for us, but it's a large business. So our medical billing solution offers a way for pharmacists to bill their claims to Medicare, to other commercial payers under that medical benefit. We act as a clearinghouse. So, you submit your claim through us. You can do it through your PMS system. It's easy. Work it into your day-to-day workflow. We will scrub the claim if there's issues, based on the rules of Medicare or these other payers that we're aware of. We can send that claim back to you, because the way that Part B adjudication works is it's not real time. The claim adjudicates when they issue the payment to you. So it could be 3 weeks before if you're getting paid for a claim or not, or if there was an issue on it. So it's important to have a clearinghouse like our medical billing solution in order to get a clean claim through the first time, because again, that medication's already walked out the door, that item, you've already given that shot. We want to make sure that you're getting paid timely. So we work hard to make sure that those claims go through clean that first time. And then from there, we also offer the reconciliation solution for medical billing claims. It's a little different than our pharmacy claims because generally there's that 80-20 split. So Medicare is going to pay it. They may forward it over to, the other payer. Then you have to wait for that 20% to come in. Is there a fee for the patient that they have to pay? So again, just having that visibility and not having to read paper remits to determine, was my claim denied? Was my claim paid correctly? Is there a patient responsibility I need to go after? So that medical billing system is really kind of that start to finish billing service for those medical Part B claims.
That's been huge. I know a lot of pharmacists I've worked with were really worried during the vaccinations. Like they were saying during COVID, am I getting paid for what I've done? How do I know what I'm getting paid for? How do I know when it's coming? There was delays. So I think that's going to be something that's going to be more and more important to stay on top of for pharmacists.
Definitely. I think medical billing's going to keep expanding, right? As we're working, again, expanding their licenses, what they're able to do. And getting more into those medical services. I think, if pharmacies aren't doing it today, then I think they need to, do their research on how to get into that medical space. And again, we offer that solution. We offer guidance there, and we have pharmacists on staff that they can talk to as well about what that looks like for them.
Awesome. Good stuff. And you guys go to all the major trade shows and things like that. So feel free, anybody listening out there, to stop by. And sometimes you'll see Lindsey there as well, if you get lucky.
I was going to ask just how would someone get in contact with you if they wanted to ask you some questions about the third-party process? What's the best way to get in contact with you?
Yeah, so I think through our website, if you're interested in learning more, the website's just enlivenhealth.co, so ENLIVEN health.co. And then there's information about our solutions there and ways to get in contact with somebody from our team. Or you can reach out to Sykes because we have a great relationship with them, and they know how to get to me directly as well. So
I will give a shout out to Kathy. She is our in-house third-party reconciliation guru, if you will, works closely with Lindsey. So she's available to help anybody that has questions as well. You can always reach out to Sykes Company here. We'll do our best to help you.
And I would say too, even for current clients of you guys, that are, we have some mutual clients, obviously. And, sometimes people will put their hand up and we find out they're having issues later. Same thing with sometimes with us. Maybe they don't understand something that's going on in their financial statement, and then they wait a couple months to say something. Like, put your hand up. It would be my biggest takeaway from a lot of this. If you don't understand something that's going on with the third-party reconciliation service, maybe you don't feel like you've got the training you need. You're just, clueless, like I feel like a lot of times with lots of things. Put your hand up, call your analyst. And let you guys know that there's an issue, because I know you guys will help. And sometimes you just don't know that there is an issue. And we find that a lot. People, what's going on with your report? I don't know. Well, have you called?
Yeah.
No. you got to say something. So we see that a lot, and it's not your fault. It's a lot of times it's the client that just doesn't know they just kind of put it on the back burner, which we all do with certain things. But
right.
To me, this is huge. If I had a pharmacy, this would be something that would be really important to me, because like Scotty said, this is, it would be different if this was like credit card reimbursements. You get those after every few days. And so you can tell quickly if there's an issue. But with this, like you mentioned earlier, could be, 30 days, 60 days, sometimes 90 days for reimbursement for claims. And so it's so important that you have to have your hands on what's going on, because you're never going to be able to keep track of it otherwise.
Right.
And
it's such a large number too.
Yes, it's your biggest number. Yeah.
I guess probably the average is $250,000, $300,000 receivable number any given month. That's a lot of money, and that impacts
your cash,
your numbers. Yeah. That impacts the whole financial picture. So, you just got to have your hand on this. And, so, if you're not doing it, you need to be doing it. You need to be using technology 100%. You absolutely shouldn't be manually doing this process.
Please.
Utilize technology.
Please don't be on Excel.
It's just another example of all these other things with technology that we mentioned. It's just so important for the pharmacy owner to get out there and spend their time in other places. And spending it doing, not that this isn't important, it's extremely important, but it's not somewhere where we feel that just like with accounting, that the pharmacist should spend their time. They should be helping, their patients, growing that pharmacy, working out front, building relationships, working with providers. So this time should be spent, passing this along to some of your employees that you trust and that can help you with this, and let that owner spend their time in other areas.
Yeah. And I think it's like we kind of mentioned on the DIR fees a little bit earlier, right? It's not just where's my money, it's, tracking those different things. And I think one important call out for our pharmacies to be aware of is, in 2024, there are changes coming out to the DIR where it's going to be taken at the point of sale versus retroactively. And it's important to plan, in 2023 for that, because that first quarter of 2024, they're not only going to be taking it at the point of sale, but they're also going to be taking those retroactive Q4 2023 fees. And so that first quarter is going to be tough, because it's essentially like you're kind of getting double hit on those fees. So I've talked to many pharmacies, they're already planning today, leveraging our reports to kind of get an idea of how much is being taken out quarter to quarter. And they're already setting funds aside I think the power just went out in this building.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
No.
This is going to be a first.
Um,
We've never had the power go
but I'm
out.
on my phone. So,
I didn't know if you were just changing the lighting or something, playing
No.
around with
This
that.
is a dramatic.
Yeah,
This was a dramatic lighting change for the DIR fees coming in 2024.
Play it to the
For those who are
Done.
listening, the lights just like a
I
light
thought
on
it just
Lindsay.
had moved. Yeah,
Love it.
but I don't know if you want me to finish that.
No, you're fine.
Let's roll.
Keep going.
Yeah. No, yeah. So, we have pharmacies already planning today for that change. So they're putting funds aside to where when they are taking them at the point of sale and retroactively for that first quarter, their financials aren't hit as hard because they already have that backup.
I do want to ask, the DR fee change is coming. We're going to have some content out on that soon, but how can pharmacies out there utilize, how would you recommend pharmacies out there utilize the Econcile to help them with their planning? What would you tell pharmacies out there to help them prepare for that change?
Yeah, so I think we offer, like we mentioned, the DIR reporting. We do have a year-to-date report that basically gives you the entire year summary by month, so you can track it by quarter. So I think, leveraging that report along with some of our sales reports so they can maybe get a percentage of their sales per month of what DIR is, and then just plan to have those funds, in advance, kind of set that aside so you are available. But really just kind of doing that analysis of your DIR to your sales so you get an idea of what's, like I said, it may be a double hit that first quarter. So what does that look like? And how can you get ahead of that?
Yep.
And wow, this has been great. I had a list of things I wanted to go over or hear or learn, and I learned them all. One last question I personally have is, what's the first step? I've been filling and praying as a pharmacist. Just been filling and praying.
Is that going to be the title of this podcast?
Yeah, that might need to be.
I think it is.
So I've been filling and praying. I'm assuming the first step is to choose a provider. Let's say I go to your website. How long until I'm up and running? Meaning until things are coming into the system. Is it days? Is it weeks? Is it months? Is it years? How long does it take for me to move from fill and pray to an actual more of a sophisticated system?
Yeah, so if you go to our website, you enroll in our solution, right? You'd work with our sales team. They would get the contracting process done. That, could be a quick process, or, it could drag out a little bit just depending on, questions that you have and, demos that maybe you want to see. But that could be a quick turnaround time. But once we have that executed contract, it goes to our onboarding team, and our onboarding team works to set up a data feed. So getting that information from the pharmacy management system or from the switch of what is being adjudicated. So we get that set up. That's usually pretty quick. It takes a couple of days. What takes the longest is working to set up the electronic 835 files. So the electronic payment files of what was paid. Some payers turn it around in a week. Some payers turn it around in 30 days. It just depends on the payer. But our goal is to have everybody onboarded and live, either on the solution, managing it yourself, or with our analyst team here with me within 60 days. And that timeline really depends on getting the forms back to us. So again, being engaged.
Hey, Lindsay. What an interesting episode we've had here.
She's sticking with it though.
We've lost power. We've talked about one of the most important balance sheet line items, third party. So I guess with all this, Lindsay, we usually wrap up with the bottom line. Like, what is the bottom line takeaway for you? So I'll start. My bottom line is you got to have reconciliation. It's got to be automated, and you got to be keeping tabs on it consistently. It is the largest unreconciled bank account if you're not keeping on top of it. And the fill and pray method is not a business strategy. So get a system in place would be my bottom line here.
You just took 3 of them.
Yeah,
That's
like
not fair.
4.
I did. That might be the whole
Every
bottom.
bottom line imaginable on the topic. No, I was just going to say, I guess for me, the bottom line is we just talk about knowing your performance. So it's not just making sure the cash is coming in, but knowing your performance, keyword, accrual accounting. And if you don't have third-party reconciliation, you don't have accrual.
Yeah.
So if you want to know how you're doing and be able to make decisions, then getting involved in making sure your third party's accurate and up to date is essential.
Yeah, and I would say, us CPAs, on a selfish level, we really like it when you guys have good reports and are using a group like this to keep things reconciled so that we can use the correct numbers for you as well. And I did love what I learned today from Lindsey. It's not just about making sure that you're getting paid. It's all these other, these reports and things too. The DRR fees we mentioned, it's important to have that information and making sure that you're getting the right amount. So that's something that I haven't really, I know, but I haven't considered a whole lot. It's not just that you're getting paid, but that also it's the correct amount.
Lindsey, how about you? What's your bottom line
for the
listeners?
We leave her any meat on the
We
bone.
didn't leave her much, but
The bottom line is
it's hot over here.
you need to
in
get some
Texas,
power
and
at
the
your
air's
place.
hot.
Y'all are.
It's fine, but no, I think, like I've said, just being engaged, right? So if you're using our solution or plan to use our solution, use it, right? Be engaged, use our analysts, call them, verify those deposits, help us stay on top of it for you. So we don't have to, go back and try to get information that may not be available anymore. So just be engaged.
awesome.
Very nice. And, I wanted to harp on being engaged with those analysts is very important. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
But Lindsey,
Sorry
we
about
certainly
that.
appreciate you joining us in the
Absolutely.
half in the dark. And
Thanks for sticking through, Lindsey.
Yeah,
She's a
what
trooper.
here.
Yeah.
Thank you for all the help you provide for our clients, working with Kathy and our clients directly. And we certainly appreciate you and all you guys do, and appreciate you joining us here today.
Definitely.
So,
Thanks,
Lindsey,
y'all, for
thank
having
you
me.
so much. And we'll have to do this again
too.
sometime. Thank you.
Thanks, Lindsey. Have a good day.
Check. Your QuickBooks check. Your checks, yes, you can call me.